I'm Steve Vibronics, and this is the Life in Dub podcast, talking to people who live their lives in dub and reggae. Episode number 10. Welcome to the 10th Life in Dub podcast, a series that features in-depth interviews with people who've lived their lives in dub and reggae. I hope you're all surviving the corona lockdown okay, and that these podcasts help provide a bit of relief for you all. Again, thanks for all the messages. Keep them coming in, either to vibronics@gmail.com or any of the social media channels. And don't forget, you can visit the podcast website, lifeindub.com. This week, we have something to celebrate because this podcast reaches episode number 10. Really a very little milestone, but something to enjoy anyway. I have to say, the reaction from all you listeners out there has been my main encouragement to continue. When I launched Life in Dub way back on the 1st of January, I really didn't know if people wanted to spend an hour listening to two people talk with no music or anything, just talking. And an hour is not like listening to a song or two, it's a real commitment. My main experience before this podcast was releasing singles and albums, and podcasts are definitely different. They're much more of a niche thing. And although sometimes it is good to listen more than once to a podcast episode to make sure you get someone's full story, because there's a lot of detail in each interview, but a podcast isn't like a song. It's not something to be listened to on repeat or something that stays with you on your life journey like your favourite songs do. But luckily, it seems, as we reach episode number 10, I can say that people do like podcasts and that people are interested in these stories and these experiences, these views. I started Life in Dub because I'm really interested in what motivates people and what events shape people's lives. So I'd like to thank all my guests for trusting in me and allowing me to share these precious gems with the whole Life in Dub podcast audience. It really means a lot. Looking ahead, there are some great guests lined up and loads more amazing life stories to be shared. So keep tuning in every 2 weeks. And don't forget, you can listen back to all the previous episodes wherever you pick up your podcasts. This week, my guest is IMO from Moa Anbessa in Italy. IMO is my first guest who's not a native English speaker, but unlike me and my non-existent Italian language skills, IMO speaks great English and really helped me to understand more about the history of Italian reggae and sound system culture, as well as the Moa Anbessa project that's reached such highs over the last few years. We recorded this interview in Ferrara in Italy when I was playing out there before the virus crisis, and we talk a lot about the Zion Station Festival, a festival that sadly, like all the others, is now postponed until 2021. So enough of me, let's get on with the interview. So, IMO, welcome to the Life in Dub podcast.
Ciao, Steve. Ciao.
Here we are in Ferrara.
Yeah.
Kind of location recording on the road.
Yeah. True.
So what I'm doing in the podcast, as many people know now, is I'm asking the same question at the beginning of the podcast. And the first question I'm asking people is if they can name a song or a track that really changed things for them, and when they think back, they think, yeah, when I heard that track, that really kind of shifted things for me. So I was wondering if you've got an example of a track like that you want to share with us.
Yeah. Well, first of all, give thanks for inviting me at your podcast. It's a big blessing and an honor for me to be
Welcome.
here with you, and an honor to share this time together. So the first tune is, well, obviously the very first reggae tune was about Bob Marley. And I remember when I was a child, my father used to listen to vinyls at home, and he had a copy of Kaya.
The Bob Marley album, yeah.
I remember that big joint like a volcano in the back. And I remember he used to play that. But then when I was like 14, a friend of mine, 15, a friend of mine just gave me a copy from Legend, Bob Marley. And we played that cassette all night long. We played that cassette for hours and hours. But if I ever name a tune, it's Equal Rights from Peter Tosh.
Okay. And why this tune?
Yeah. Because when I listen to that tune, after listening for Marley since a couple of months, it opened my mind, and I realized there was much more apart from Marley, and I started my journey listening to. At that time, I remember one of the very first was Linton Kwesi Johnson,
Okay, yeah, dub
and was
poetry.
maybe my second, third live concert I attended. I was like 16 in Milan, and then Burning Spear, and then. But that tune, Equal Rights and Justice, I love Peter Tosh.
He's a great artist.
I love Peter Tosh, definitely. He's different from Marley, different from, obviously, from Bunny Wailer. I love the revolutionary side of Peter Tosh. Huh? There's
Yeah, definitely.
a freedom fighter,
a
freedom
militant
fighter,
guy.
tough man. That tune, I used to listen to that cassette, Equal Rights, to that album for months and months and months every day.
So what kind of time was this? What kind of year are we talking?
We're talking about 94, 94, 93.
And just looking at, obviously, you grew up in Italy, yeah?
Yeah.
You grew up in the kind of Venice area? Or?
Yeah, Venice area. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And what's kind of a bit of, I'm interested in a bit of the history of kind of Italian reggae, Italian sound system, Italian sort of dub and roots culture. So what was going on back then, and how did things kind of progress? Because now we have this amazing big scene, but you're talking about a time, long time ago.
Yeah, particularly in Venice, we have a quite old and good tradition when it comes about reggae music. We used to have a lot of bands, mostly because one of the first man who came to Italy with Jamaican music on cassettes or vinyl was a man from Rome. I think you know him, Carlo Pistacchi.
Yeah.
And he lived in Venice, still live in Venice, and he was spreading a lot of music amongst friends. And then we have all the Rototom crew, just 1 hour far from Venice, and they used to bring a lot of Jamaicans artists in the area. So we grew up we just saw all the main Jamaican superstar. We saw the cultures, we saw Gladiators, Abyssinians, Black Huru, all of them many times.
And you're talking about, obviously, like a live music scene.
Yeah.
Lots of live
in the
bands.
Northeast, particularly at the end of the 90s, it was like 2 big concerts every month in our area. Yeah. And then after that, all of them came out, like Anthony B, all that. So we always had a lot of musicians in Venice, reggae musicians, players of instruments, and a lot of chanters. And we used to play in 2 or 3 bands. And at the end of that, it was one big band with 13, 14 people on the stage. And then after a few years like that, it was like 3 or 4 or 5 people came out from the project and started our project. So it was like 2001.
Okay. Because in terms of you getting involved in reggae music, you were kind of brought up with it then, really?
Since 14 years old, like something like that. Before of that, it was a lot of jazz music because my father used to play jazz. He played the trumpet. So I grew up with tons of Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, all of them, Dizzy Gillespie, all of hours and hours and hours. And I studied piano for 10 years. So I remember I spent hours playing Fats Domino, and then then it was like a rock and roll music for a couple of years, maybe around 13 years old, and then I switched definitely to reggae music. yeah.
So you guys kind of formed this crew that
Yeah.
came out of this collective of people playing
Yeah.
music, and was that's basically the Moa Anbessa crew?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. It was like we used to had a couple of studios. Buri, he had his own studio. David, the liquor one. I used to have my own studio. And we started going to London to attend shaka dances and other sounds and the Brixton Rec around 99, 2000. So it was like...
So what led you to start to go to shaka dances? Because you're hearing this live music and live bands.
Yeah.
And Rototom was very much like a live music thing
Yeah.
back then. And
Yeah.
so what kind of drew you to shaka and the sound system?
It's like he came to Venice. He played on a liquor island, Lido di Venezia, where there is the big movie cinema festival every year. And it was like 1996 or 7, I think.
Shaka playing
Shaka.
in Venice.
And between 97 and 99, I think he played twice in Rome, something like that. And the first time someone of us went to London, it was natural, and we had the opportunity to see Shaka a few times there. And then it was the time for the Brixton Rec, University of Dub, and other. I remember the Rocket in London, and it was a good time. We used to leave from Venice on Friday afternoon. We used to arrive in London. We used to go to the Dub Shack in Camden. We used to go to Daddy Cool, Soul Jazz Records. We used to buy a lot of records, and we attend like 2 sessions in 3 days. We used to sleep 2 or 3 hours, and then we flew back to Venice, and was
You got to pack it in if you're like,
Yeah,
if you're
yeah,
there,
yeah,
you got to
yeah.
take it up,
Yeah.
take it in as much as you
Yeah.
can.
And it was the time when the first dub Roots and Dub Sound System used to play and travel around Italy. The very first sound in Italy is from One Love I Power.
In
He used to
Rome.
organize the first dances around 1996, 94, 95, maybe 93, the very first one or something like that. And then there used to be I Sound, Mimo from Bari.
Yeah, in the south.
I Sound System, I Project. And then we had DJ War from Salento, South Italy. And then it was the time for King David Warriors, Nadine and Matteo in Northwest. And from that, it really all started from that time.
Because the whole UK influence is a very big thing in like Italian sound system culture. Because I've been coming here for a very, very long time, and I've seen it kind of grow over the years. And like, there's something, I guess, in the kind of UK sound system sort of vibe that's kind of interesting to.
It's almost
Italy.
20 years that in UK sounds and artists come and play regularly in Italy. It's almost 20 years, 23. Irish and Steppa, Channel One, King Shiloh, everybody. It was me and Nadi for 2 or 3 years together, working together, bringing a lot of artists here. And then she has already done it alone since a couple of years before. And everything there started, with other crews from Milan, with Fabrizio, Dread Lion, Linea di Massa in Rome.
Suddenly a lot of sound started to come up. So what do you think attracted like the Italians to this kind of like sort of UK sound system vibe? Can you think of anything that was kind of any reason it kind of took off here? Because it didn't take off in every country, but Italy from a long time.
If we talk about the sound system, so the peculiarity of the sound, so I mean the do-it-yourself thing, and a lot of boxes, a lot of that kind of hide work, in Italy, as you know, the scene always is developed in the squat movement Okay, so the most part of the sound system could only play inside squats. And for certain reasons, it was the best approach for both of them, for the squad to have this non-commercial situation inside of their, area with self-built boxes and all that stuff. And for the sound, it was good because it was the only place where they could set up the sound and the stack and play. No clubs
people
could allow you to.
Why are you bringing these speakers in my club?
So
those kind of
it was
situations.
only about the squats. And we had a lot of squats in Italy. We used to have a lot of squats like 20 years ago. And so it was really around this for almost 10 years. It was around these places. And I don't know if there's some similarity between the Italian attitude in doing this, or I don't know, because also in France it was good, and maybe we are Italian. We are like sometimes we are like easy people, and the and the Jamaican vibe sometimes.
But on the other side, you've got
it takes us so good, and
but on the other side, you've got this kind of like political kind of, you have to fight for your rights in Italy, and something me and Madhu have noticed because we've been coming here for so long is this, like you say, this DIY underground political kind of thing. And that's kind of at the heart of sound system for me, is that sort of independent spirit.
Yeah, we must consider also some social and political aspect, because if we see the scene just develop itself amongst 2000 and we can say 2000 and 2010, the very first 10 years, okay. And during that years, the political situation in Italy, it was very rough.
We had Berlusconi.
We had Berlusconi for almost 20 years. And we saw the youth dying in the street it was 2002. It was 2001 in Genoa. We saw the police shooting to the youth in the street, and one died. And we had Berlusconi for almost 20 years. So for like the open mind people like we, it was a rough time psychologically, okay? Because it was really rough. We could see our country just to disgregate and implode, okay, and the political aspect was very hard. Everything was about that. Everything was about Berlusconi and the mafia and all that stuff. So it was rough for us to see our country to be treated like that from that people. And still goes on. Obviously, nothing changed, nothing really changed. But we had, it was like to go in the squat with your sound system. It was like your moment to express yourself and to fight, and don't think about how grey was things out from there, and how sad was everything out from there. We needed to play reggae music and to express ourselves and to follow that dream. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Because that's what I've seen from my time in Italy, is this kind of the message of the struggle in the lyrics and the music, and also the kind of upliftment and stuff is really kind of something that seems to kind of resonate with people in Italy, and has built this huge scene for reggae and sound system for sure.
It's always different then. So at the very beginning, it was like really a pioneer things, and then it was the clubs came in, and productions, the record labels came in, people playing out of the country and stuff like that. So
before that, I mean, you guys built a sound system and were running like the dub club in Venice.
Yeah. We used to have the sound system. Yeah, it was rough. It was really rough, and we had the Venice Dub Club, We ran that for 5 years, but then we only could play the sound there. There was no way to move it too much around. It was too tough for us. We are not young. We- is it was really rough.
Well,
So
when you're trying to produce music and do a label and everything as well, then it's hard to
yeah,
promote stuff. And obviously, I know about your festival, which I want to talk about in a bit. But just in this, talking about the sound system and this period of history is kind of because you started the sound system and there was
Yeah.
a scene growing here.
Yeah.
But also, you had started to produce stuff as
Yeah.
Moa Anbessa. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering how that all happened.
It
and
was
what the
that
kind of
part.
story behind
It
that
was that part of the process from the band to the studio. So we used to play instruments. David, Buri, me, all the brethren still passing through the studio now. Like Maka Roots, he plays guitar, and then other brethren chanting. Marcus Asha, Daniel Gad, Julius I, and a lot of brethren, all from everybody from that area. And it was like that natural process. We used to have some liquor studio, and then everything went like just to concentrate in Buri studio, which get larger and larger. He used to live alone. He used to have the space to do a proper studio. And so all the people started recording stuff there, and we used to run and use Reason, the Reason software.
Yeah, that's from
Yeah,
back in the
that
day.
was the first, like, yeah, plus all the MIDI, and it was natural for us to make our music because we used to play our music on the stage from long time.
I mean, it's interesting you talk about being musicians and coming from a musical background because that's what I hear in your music. And it makes much more sense now because I didn't know you were a musician, but if you're a musician
Yeah.
as well and all the other guys,
Yeah.
because you can hear this kind of music ability and you can hear a lot of playing
Yeah.
on the music you release. It's not just some
Yeah,
computerized thing.
also David is studied for many years. Buri used to play percussions and used to be always being the more technological of us three. It's me, Buri, and David. During the years, it was more David developing that aspect of compositions. Okay, so we are lucky because we have three different attitudes. There is one of us is more technological and that kind, and love more that kind of aspect, which is Buri, and he's the dub master. He work in the studio.
He's locked up in the studio.
Yeah, locks up in the studio. He has a proper, very nice studio. He has done. And then there is Devi, is the most auto songwriting, okay, part and composing part. It was me working more on the organizations of events and promotion and coordinating the label, okay, and coordinating all these things in order to put out the release,
Yeah, like
to
proper
release the
teamwork.
music. Yeah. So
Because what seemed to happen is there were a few releases and then like I remember hearing like Thank You Jar,
yeah,
which was how long ago was that?
5 years maybe.
Yeah.
Jaja, thank you.
No, before that. Jaja, thank you.
Jaja,
Yes,
thank you. Jaja,
yes.
thank you.
Yeah,
It's almost, I think, 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought maybe more, but yeah, 5 years ago.
Yeah,
and
5 years ago.
that
yeah.
seemed to be the start of like a real big rise in what you were doing, like quality of productions and
Yeah.
the quality of the tracks, and it seemed to people just seemed to love it, and it just seemed to like blow up.
Yeah, we had a big step during that 5 years of stop. We released the first stuff on 2004, and then we released 3 productions: 2004, 2005, 2006. Then we stopped until 2011 or 12. So it was like 5 years with no releases coming out, And Burry and David, they work a lot in the studio in that period to develop their own sound and, or, you know what I mean, or their own sound to increase the studio equipment and so on. So after that, on 2011, we came out with Watch Them, and then we came out with Jaja Thank You, and then it was Jaja Calling, Flying Away, Ever Living from David. And,
Whatever you did in that 5-year period, that really worked.
Yeah.
Before the releases,
Yeah,
because
when
they came
studio.
out, they came out, they really seemed so much kind of, I guess, just higher quality than a lot of stuff that was around, and it sounded fresh and modern, but still sounded like roots music, and kind of, and people really they took to that, and to say that they became very popular.
Yeah. I hope David and Buria will be listening. Are listening now. They will be happy for your words.
But that must have been quite an experience for you, because when you release music and suddenly it becomes quite popular, you got to deal with all that stuff. And suddenly it's like, you know, back in the day the phone would be ringing, but like now it's obviously the messages are coming in and stuff. But it's a lot of work when things kick off like that.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. If you, there's a lot of work to do. I see my brethren are all the days stuck in the studio. Okay. And when it's about to manage a lot of bookings coming and manage the label issuing, coordinating everything, and manage all the contacts and the promotion on the socials and so on, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of work to do it properly. I mean, in that way. Okay, we have a lot of music, still a lot of music in the studio, still not really being released from that period and after.
You can plan to release something really good. It's people who decide if it's going to be popular or not. And was it a surprise how it took off? Because it really did take off.
It's a people deciding, and like always being always in the sound system, it's the other sound supporting. We remember you supporting us from the very first time. ABBA supported us a lot. And also it was amazing to see Jashaka playing our release. And a lot of other people, I can't even remember the names, that supported us playing our music. And it is the biggest blessing. Okay, because when we see all the other artists enjoying what we do and catching the vibe of what we do and spreading it in their set is a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, I play
is a big blessing.
I play your music, and I think every time I'm playing any kind of selection, I love it, and it fits in with what I do, and because I love stuff that's like melodic as well, and the stuff that you guys produce has so much melody and these amazing vocals. I mean, I don't know if you want to talk about the vocal stuff at all, because obviously Italian people singing in like what's a second language, I guess. Yeah. But doing such a great job with these songs. I mean, and that's I think that's what really connects with people.
Yeah. There's no way to explain the reason why. Especially in Venice, we have like around our studio, they can pass like 10 people singing. Okay. It's all of brethren singing with us since like 20 years. And there is no reason why. I don't know why. I don't know why.
It's almost strange, like how
David,
great the talent
it's Diego, Maka, Asher, Daniel, Jules, also Francesco Danai, Imperial Sound Armies. He lives just 1 hour far from us. And a lot of people chanting. I can't explain this, but a lot of good singers, a lot of excellent singers. We grew up seeing all the biggest artists on stage. Maybe it's...
Yeah, there must be something.
We just grew up with culture, and we were in the front row. Abyssinians front row, Black Uru front row. All of them. So, like,
maybe there's some link to some like Italian history of
and
singing.
the Italian tradition with singing is very big. The melodic, you said. Also in Venice, there is a big tradition for chanting on the boats. While you're working, while you're doing everything, you always chant. So
I think that's it. I'm sure that's what it is.
Yeah, there's maybe a link.
But what the other thing I really liked personally about the productions is they've got these great vocals and these great melodies, and it sounds like it's authentic roots music, but it doesn't sound like it sounds like a new take on it. And is that something you wanted to do, is to make it sound modern? Because it does, definitely.
Root styles is our sound much more than heavy dubstepper. But I think that because we are not a one-man crew, it's a combination between the works of two people. Since few years, it's only about Buri and David working in the studios. At the very beginning, it was 3 or 4 of us. Now, since like 10 years, 15 years, it's almost David and Buri. So it's a combination of them styles, and David is more the composing part, and so he has his own touch, his own melodies. Buri is the dub mixing, but he always adds something. That combination, and they developed their own sound during the years, and we always try to do roots music.
I'm a big fan of it. And like talking about roots, is one other thing I wanted to ask you about was the Zion Station Festival, because I was lucky enough to play there a few years ago. It's really like it's a great roots festival. And I just wondered like how that festival started and kind of what it's like to run a festival like that, because it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing. This year, 2020, will be the 10th edition. So it's very important for us, and it was hard to work on it for 10 years because in this country, when it comes about music and organizations, events, everything is very difficult. But here we are, and Zion Station, it just started 10 years ago when Simone, the brethren, they run a club here in the town where we are now in Ferrara. Yeah. They run a club here during the winter, and he invited us for playing in his club like 10 years ago. And he knew about I was bringing artists to Italy from many years. So he asked me to start this collaboration for a small festival that he wanted to do on the summer, next summer in 6 months, something like that. So everything started like, let's do something together. So I take care of the planning and artistic direction and checking the artists, calling them and dealing with them and so on. And they take care about the location, the venue, bureaucracy, all the permissions and so on. And then we saw it working really, really well. The place is wonderful, and
it's a great location.
The place is great, and people enjoy the place and the vibe we could create there, because we are like a small family. It's only 15 or 20 people working on the festival. And so we are like a family. They work all together during the year in the club, and then them still together during the festival. And there's a family vibe, and people can catch it.
I remember thinking like a lot of thought had gone into that, and that seems to be the vibe of the festival. You obviously care about the lineup and the program.
Is one thing I really care about is not to do is what we try to do since maybe the second year. Okay, the first year was different, was a general test, like, so we try to give a vision to the people for every edition, different for every edition. So we had like the one edition we almost had like only live mixing, okay, and stuff like that. Last year we had a lot of African artists in the lineup, and we always try to give a vision to the people and to the lineup, to the list, okay. And we only repeated just 2 or 3 artists couple of times, but we always try to call
to bring
first
something new.
timers. That's one thing we really love to do. So every year is different. Yeah, every year is different. During 10 years, we had a lot of artists, and was a big journey, and really a big blessing for me to have the chance to cooperate with Simone and all the crew. It was a big journey because we saw literally the one which now we can consider the biggest Italian sound system, Roots-Reggae festival. Literally, we saw it come up, and we built it with our hands, and it's a big blessing.
An easy thing to do. I mean, I don't know if you want to. I don't know if you want to talk about what it's like trying to organise something like that, because but when you're creating a whole festival out of like a nothing and like an empty field, it's really a lot of work.
Yeah, it's hard work. Yeah, to create a festival from nothing is. We work like 10 days before the festival to set up everything, and then you leave the place like 5 days after the end of the festival. So you are fully working for 20 days, and there's a lot of things to do, and we sleep 2 or 3, maybe 3 hours sometime, but it's like that. It can be different from this. It's not easy, and we love it because of that.
And do you get to enjoy it at all, or is it just?
No, we only focus on working. I personally take care of artists, so we have to run up and down. There's the runner living during the 3-4 days of the festival is so tough. And that we don't even see what's going on around us. We know what to do, and we do it straight. And it's rough. It's rough. We are only like 10 people, but we love it. We love it like it is. We didn't want to grow too much like a festival. We didn't want to grow too much. We had the opportunity to move to other places. We have no sponsorship since day one, no sponsorship at all, no money from the local government.
You do everything yourselves.
Anything, yeah.
To have a festival that doesn't have sponsorship but still manages to keep going and be a success, and that's a great kind of example to show people, I think, and because I know people that come from all over to go to it because they know it's going to be the real deal.
Yeah. It's and it's a big thing when you see that people that often travel and attend to other festivals, they come to our festival and they see, wow, is so great here because you can enjoy the vibe. I remember great sessions. Even Shaka last year, it was crazy, when you see Shaka in London is different, but and Shaka last year at Zion Station it was at that level, and it was mad, and I felt he catch the vibe, and like him, many others.
So what kind of stuff can we expect from Moa Anbessa and Zion Station and everything going forward? What new things should we be looking out for?
Moa Anbessa, we are playing a lot around now, and we have good bookings, so we are going to play a lot in the next months. this year, 2020, it seems to be a good year. We love to travel and play. We love to be in session. We really love to be in session. So when we have the opportunity, we give 1,000% of ourselves, and we are having good bookings. And I don't know what's going on with the releases. Last one, it's from 3-4 months ago, and it's going very well. And I think we're going to wait a little bit before we put out something again. As you know,
I think it's good to be a bit patient like that, because I'm always making music in the studio, and I release a lot of stuff and a lot of stuff on other labels. And sometimes I think, wow, maybe I just release too much stuff because I'm always busy making stuff. But I think it's good sometimes to wait, spend some time, get it ready.
Yeah. Also, because when we release one song, we don't play it anymore around. So, we have so many, and we prefer. So we already know what we're gonna release in the next 10 years, maybe.
All the stuff you're playing exclusively when you play in session.
Yeah. No, it's a big work. As you know, we have families, we have other jobs, okay? So we have a lot of things to do. And music for us is a big part of our life. And is a very important part of our life, because we do this since we were young, very young.
Well, it's been great talking to you, and great to learn a bit more about the kind of history of the Italian kind of sound system scene. And so, last question, I'm asking everybody about the Book of Dub. I'm going to write something about you in the Book of Dub. What would you want written next to your name in the Book of Dub?
Oh, how you want to be remembered, huh? Something like that. It's tough. Well, musically speaking, I just would like the people I always deal with and work with, they have good memories from me.
To leave a good impression.
It's enough. Good memories from me, and from the time we spent together. And musically, that's the best thing you can ask, because it means they enjoy what you did, and they spent good time with you, because this thing we are doing, it gives us the chance to know a lot of people, and it is a big blessing. All of that people can say they had a good times with you, thanks to you, because of you, or whatever. This is the biggest thing, friend for them during this travel, this journey.
Yeah, 100%. It's always been good vibes. So I'm a fan.
Thing. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. By the human side, I would be remembered as a good father, and that's the most important thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, Imo, thank you very much. So it's great to talk to you. Nice.
Thank you.
Thanks again for joining me and Imo for this 10th episode of the Life in Dub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to Life in Dub wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have any comments or suggestions about the show, feel free to email me at vibronics@gmail.com. And as ever, you can visit the website lifeindub.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you all again in 2 weeks for the next Life in Dub podcast.